Hi, welcome to Gab and Dad. I'm Gab.
And I'm Dad. Hello. Oh, I should explain why I'm in these white clothes and holding a tennis racket. It's because when we finish taping this review, I'm off to play tennis. Well, not that anybody would
We're
really
very
care
happy
about
for
that.
you.
Thank you.
But back on to point, we're here to review Angels and Demons, which we saw this past weekend. It's now, the weekend has passed. Our review is a little bit tardy because we were away visiting.
We're visiting my mother and Gabrielle's grandmother.
We might get her to join us for a review one day, but not this time.
Unlikely.
This movie's not worthy. The movie is Angels and Demons.
Angels and Demons. It's a sequel to the Da Vinci Code. It's set in Rome, the Vatican. It's about skullduggery in the Vatican surrounding the choosing of a new pope, the cardinals.
Same old story.
Same old story. Bad guys who want to do terrible things, kill cardinals, blow up the Vatican, lay waste to Rome. And of course, it's all saved by Professor, what's his name? Langdon, played by Tom Hanks. I hope this, by the way, this professor doesn't have tenure. I'll explain why later. Who is called in from the United States to save the Vatican, save the Catholic Church, save humanity, and does so.
Well, we wish someone had saved us.
Yeah, or save the film. It's a very
this movie's caca.
Yeah, it's a bad film. Would you like to elaborate? No. This film has no saving virtue whatsoever. It's a stupid plot, it's badly acted, it's badly directed, it's entirely predictable, it's a real snooze fest, and words fail me.
Well, I think that's a first. Yeah, the story is definitely pretty uninteresting. I mean, I think that's, for me, that's the worst criticism that I can give this kind of story. I mean, with the Da Vinci Code, I hadn't read the book and I hadn't read this one, but it was hyped as, going to be intriguing and all these connections and symbols and formulas.
Mystery,
and I just found, mystery.
Figure out who knows
and I just found ultimately just boring. There wasn't enough to it. Now, and that applies to this as well. It sort of has this air of having some sort of bringing these deep meanings with it, or at least some great mystery and intrigue. And once again, for me, flat. It wasn't there. There were little semi-action sequences. No humor. I mean, you criticize the acting. I don't see really what acting could have done.
Or could have saved this.
A more charismatic lead. I mean, Tom Hanks is very nice, but he's really quite bland, and he doesn't bring the electricity to the screen that a more charismatic lead could, and again, that wouldn't help the plot, but it would be something that would get you more engaged than we were, and it's a long movie too.
It is a long movie with a lot of, in more senses than one, pontification going on. Professor Langdon, played by this guy, is constantly giving little speeches about the sculptures of Rome and the history of the Vatican. Generally speaking, for no particular reason that I can tell, it's a bit as if a kind of a second-rate travelogue somehow kept intruding into this mystery.
Well, he was trying to charm the, of course, mysterious, gorgeous, brainy beauty who
apparently had no useful purpose at all, other than being, pretty.
Yeah, and so they would just sort of have these nice little chats. I said to Dad at one point, it's like J-date. I mean, they were just sort of vaguely flirting with each other, although without any chemistry, flirting with, via Latin translating. And it didn't go anywhere. And meanwhile, this was all going on when they were supposed to be rushing to save cardinals whose lives were at stake within a couple of minutes. But that didn't seem to sort of be too much of a bother.
The fact that the entire of Rome was going to be destroyed in a vast explosion at midnight didn't stop them kind of joking on, having little Latin puns with each other as they talked about Galileo or something.
And they managed to crisscross Rome within minutes, which...
A lot of running and driving in this film. Cars whipping here, cars whipping there.
Yeah.
Lots of cars whipping around all over the place.
And really one bad guy who's doing all of this evil legwork. Just completely impossible.
And by the way, you could spot the bad guy within 5 minutes of the film beginning, because it was sort of obvious. I pointed to the screen and I said, hey, he's the bad guy. He did it after about 5 minutes. And this is kind of annoying in a way, because I think sort of Ron Howard is the director, is playing down to the audience. He's treating them as if they're kind of dumb, He's kind of just unloading this rubbish on them on the basis that they cannot discriminate, really.
Well, I would argue that Dan Brown is the originator of treating the audience as if they're dumb, because he created the story, but of course a director can do more with it.
Rich writing this rubbish. you know.
A lot of dumb people have lots of money. I don't know.
Yeah, life's not fair, right?
This film was the #1 film this past weekend, making $48 million, which is not considered a huge hit, especially compared to Da Vinci Code's, I think, $77 million.
Star Trek last weekend made, what, about $80 million?
High 70s, and this weekend Star Trek was in second place, but very closely behind Da Vinci Code. So that's interesting. I mean, maybe the audience is getting smarter, or after this one,
maybe they're beginning to catch on to the fact that this is just rubbish.
Well, speaking of catching on, you have your tennis game too.
I have my tennis game.
On to more important things.
A far better way to spend your time than watching Angels and Demons.
Stay away.
Stay away. Stay away. Definite thumbs down to this one.